Right, we're here not too far away from Howden in the East Riding of Yorkshire. We're on some variable land, and just one or two points to pick up on with Andy. Andy occasionally spends, 2 or 3 afternoons over a month's period just getting to know the agronomic side of it, Andy, rather than just concentrating all the time on nutrition.
So we're not totally blinkered on nutrition, that's right, Chris? Yeah.
Well, there's more to agronomy than just nutrition, as you well know.
Yep.
So we're here. One of the things that concerns me, and I know we were sort of speaking yesterday, I did a little blog yesterday about nutrition and not purely concentrating on the macronutrition, considering the plant's requirements in terms of micronutrition. But this site just highlights some of the problems that we're seeing with regard to blackgrass control. And I don't know whether I can just bend down and find a blackgrass plant to demonstrate that, Andy, but we've been looking for some and finding it relatively easily. And then, of course, when you do want it, you can't find it. Let's just have a look and see what we can find. See if you can identify, Andy, see if my teaching's done any good.
That's it?
Yeah, that's a good lump there, Andy. Now, just like the crop, the blackgrass has exceeded its normal size by this time. This crop has been sprayed with Atlantis in the autumn. We no longer have that option. We haven't got a fallback position really. It's just any fallback position, if we had a herbicide, would struggle to control something that big.
So what's the best advice then, Chris, for this growth?
Well, this field, the soil type in this field ranges from very heavy to some light sandy hilltops, Andy. You can see with the colour of the crop, if you pan across there, you can see that the crop varies in colour, and those sandy hilltops are probably exhibiting just that little bit of manganese deficiency.
Yep.
Your fallback position with regard to a herbicide for this crop is 0.
Right.
You really are not going to do any good with anything. And the choice that we've got is so limited. We can't come back in here with Atlantis or a related product, if there was such a thing. So basically, in colloquial terms, we're
Up the creek.
up the creek, Andy, as far as this blackgrass is concerned.
This crop will lose yield. That's the bottom line. It's a question of
it is a question of how much. Some of these bigger plants, I mean, we've been finding plants of similar size to this, each plant capable of producing 10,000 seeds.
Wow.
So you can see then that the resupply of seed back into a crop like this. Now, I don't know for certain. I always assume when I look at a blackgrass control situation that there is resistance to blackgrass in that field. That way you take the best decision to control the blackgrass. It strikes me we haven't seen any blackgrass that's appearing to be half dead. The bulk of it is extremely healthy.
Yeah.
I'm afraid some problems you have to live with, and then devote your time and energy into a different approach to controlling it. They may include cultural things, they may include a change of herbicide, mixtures, these sorts of options.
Yeah.
But this is just no good.
So for this crop this year, Chris, the best thing that you can do is take care of everything else, such as nutrition and disease control, and give it its best chance.
Absolutely. The one thing that this stuff really, the only thing we can do now is make the crop compete with this
As good a competitor as you can.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that's the way forward. Just down there, Andy, you'll see some broadleaf weeds. That's cleavers.
Yep.
We've got quite a few of those. There's patches everywhere that you can see.
So you'll be spraying against those shortly.
Yeah, when the weather picks up a little bit. And I mean, I don't know what the temperature is right now, but it was -2 this morning when I set off, and it crept back up to 0. This wind is not that warm right now, and the forecast more rain tomorrow. So weather pattern dictates really. A little bit uneven is this crop. Bear in mind that it will have received either slurry,
Yeah.
the application of which may produce these stuttering effects as you apply slightly more to a given square metre or
Yes.
whatever. But, you know, in the main, this is typical of what we're seeing this year. Well-grown crops, not only based on inherent fertility, but fertility that was probably left over from last year.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's quite forward. We've got to put our energies now and our thoughts into no way forward with that blackgrass. Of that I am absolutely convinced. Now we've got to look at both nutrition, we've got to look at maybe a T0 in the way of a fungicide and what approach we're going to take there based on what we're seeing in the crop and also the variety.
Yep.
And also the growers' acceptance of applying a T0. I'm a big believer in T0 because of that little bit of an insurance package it presents.
Right.
Because if it turns wet, conventional timing like T0, at least you've got something in place. You've got a banker in there, that's right. Is there any point you're thinking as far ahead as a T2? Well, yes, I think there is, at least having an idea in your mind. But not sending stuff into the chemical spray store that is destined to go on a T2 because the situation may change.
Right.
You know, there's a big debate at the moment about the new SDHI materials and what value they have. They are obviously a step forward, but reading one of the farming press last night, they were saying that obviously probably the first hefty year of commercial use last year, the results weren't as good as perhaps they might be in certain areas of the country, purely because it was dry and disease levels were low, so the pressure wasn't there for it to do such a good job. They are expensive, and if you were growing highly susceptible varieties to septoria, they have a place. They are capable of maintaining green leaf area. Can we do that with nutrition? Yes, I believe we can. And so the growers of mine that I've spoken to so far, we've sat down, we've discussed the options, we've looked at SDHI materials. They're all very well aware of them because there've been road shows and all the rest of it. But they've sort of thrown it back at me. I can only give them the options and discuss those options in terms of what it's going to do for them and the cost. And they've thrown those options back at me and said, look, as far as we're concerned, you've been doing the job for so long, the wheel ain't broke, do we need to fix it? Well, that's not the full story, because sometimes you can change tack a little bit and gain from changing tack. So I've thrown that into the pot as well. So the jury is out on a full programme of SDHI materials, and you know, most of the growers as well have seen the benefit of the nutrition, and I think, you know, I'm not just saying that because you're here related to nutrition. What I'm saying is it has a big value.
And on the nutrition, Chris, if we can get you onto that one now then, what programme would you have in mind over the next month or so for this grower here with this crop?
Well, with this crop in particular, we can see the sandy hilltops there. I don't know whether the camera will pick that up, Phil, but you can see the lighter areas where perhaps we're going to have to take care of
some manganese.
A manganese deficiency, and that, I think, is probably more pronounced because of those sandy hilltops and because the crop is pretty well grown, to be fair.
Right.
So manganese is a certain thing, a certain input. Certainly magnesium coming forward, we'll see that the plant will start to exhibit on this ground, because I know the background of it, will start to exhibit the typical magnesium symptoms. I don't want to see them, I want to get on before I see those symptoms. So that will be part of my armoury, prophylactically, not curatively.
Yes.
So there's that. I'm also a fairly big believer in just a tiny amount of boron early in the cereal's life, because I think that assists the uptake of water and the transportation of water.
Yes.
So that will feature as well. So all told, that little package is giving me the ability to control that green leaf area and just keep that plant healthy, and that also helps with the plant being able to withstand disease.
So you'd be putting that on T1 time or a bit bit later.
Yeah, I would like to take care of that a little bit earlier than T1.
Right.
T1 on, you know, you start thinking about what's got to go in the tank at T1, Andy.
Gets a bit crowded.
It gets a bit crowded, and therefore, you know, if I don't want to wait to see symptoms, I'll go on that a little bit earlier. And
So you were talking about a T0 potentially here.
Yes.
You could even put the nutrition
absolutely, and that at least teases everything apart, gives you the ability to get on in a fairly protracted way, rather than cramming everything in the tank, hoping that the compatibilities, the synergies there, etc., etc. So that's what I'll be thinking. And then, of course, you know, we don't discard macronutrients, the nitrogen, the potash, particularly at this time of year. We've got to consider the nitrogen input, which is difficult this year because of how well the crop's grown, what's still in the ground. We don't want to force it forward too quickly. Soil temperatures with the rain we had last weekend have taken a bit of a dive, so nitrogen in the soils, wet soils are always colder, so that might not be working quite as well, but the sunshine up there is the biggest driving force for growth at the moment. So all told, a lot of decisions to make regarding this crop.
And all over the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Well, I tell you what, Andy, we're stood here talking now. I'll guarantee you we could be here in July wondering where the hell that time went, because by God, it comes forward very, very quickly, and we go from T1, T1, T2, T3, and then all of a sudden those big yellow, red, or whatever colour they are floating through this field, and
it's all done.
Hopefully fill in the barn.
Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome, Andy. We'll just walk a bit further and just see what else